Hello everybody. So today we will be discussing reversing entries. So before anything else, please use Handout 020, page 2, and Handout 012, Landing on You Travel Services Company. Okay, so let's start. Reversing entries is an optional step in the accounting cycle. When we say optional, pwede mo siyang daanan, pwedeng hindi. Okay? However, it is useful in facilitating the recording of asset, liabilities, revenue, and expenses in the usual manner. Later on, maiintindihan natin kung ano yung importance at kung ano yung advantage ng paggamit ng reversing entries. They are journalized and posted at the beginning of the new accounting period. So, although ang reversing entries po ay last step of the accounting cycle, siya po ay ginagawa sa beginning of the new accounting period. Okay, so meron po tayong 4 na adjusting entries that we recommend to undergo reversing entries. So ano po yung 4 na yon? Prepayments under the expense method, deferrals under revenue method, then we also have your accruals, accrued revenues, and accrued expenses. So para mas maintindihan natin, maglagay tayo ng example. Punta po tayo ng handout 020 page 2. So kung maaalala nyo, yan yung problem natin na nanghiram ang company ng 200,000 pesos and then they signed a note payable for that. Nasagutan na natin sa previous lesson yung column na without reversing entries. So ngayon naman, ang gagawin natin is uulitin ko sa inyong i-discuss yung without reversing entries at saka yung journal entries niya and yung ledger natin sa without reversing entries. And then, ipapakita ko naman paano tayo gumamit ng reversing entries dito sa pangalawang column natin. Okay? So, balikan lang natin yung dati natin sinagutan. Since the company has signed a note payable, signed a written notice of promise to pay. So, ang debit po natin is cash for 200,000 and credit notes payable for 200,000. Okay. At the end of the accounting period, December 31, dadaan po ang ilang buwan? May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So, 8 months po. Kailangan po natin mag-recognize ng interest expense for 8 months kahit hindi pa natin nababayaran. So, 200,000 times 12% po na interest rate natin dun sa multiplied by 8 months over 12 months, ang ating pong interest attributable to 2020 is 16,000. So, debit interest expense of 16,000, credit interest payable of 16,000. So, ipapakita natin sa ledger kung paano natin siya ipopost. Debit interest expense of 16,000 and credit interest payable 16,000. Okay. Tapos po ay syempre dadaan tayo ng closing entries, 'di ba? Kung matatandaan nyo. Ang closing entries na discuss na natin sa mga previous lessons para ma-zero out natin yung drawing revenue and expense accounts to prepare them for the next accounting period. So ang ating closing entry, simplihan na lang natin. Ang closing entry na ipapakita ko dito is para lang doon sa interest expense. But in reality, alam naman natin sabay-sabay natin yun kino-close, 'di ba? But anyway, papakita ko lang yung isa para makita nyo lang na yung interest expense magko-close this year. So debit, profit or loss summary 16,000, credit interest expense 16,000. So pag pinost natin yan, debit, profit or loss summary 16,000, tapos credit interest expense 16,000. Ano nga po uli ang purpose ng closing entries? Magko-close po yung ating drawing revenue and expense accounts. So yung interest expense natin for 2020 nag-close na. Okay? Zero balance na po siya. Yung dati nating example, wala pong reversing entry. So, syempre, hindi po tayo gagamit ng reversing entry. On the day of repayment, yung ating pong April 30, 2020 transaction, paano na po yung magiging repayment entry natin? Debit, notes payable for 200,000. Debit, interest payable for 16,000. Yan po yung 16,000 na hindi pa natin nababayaran. Tapos, meron pa tayong kulang na interest expense na 8,000 attributable naman for 2021. Which is, yan po yung January, February, March, and April. Or, 200,000 200,000 times 12% times 4 over 12. Yan po yung 8,000 na yon. Okay? Credit cash po tayo ng principal amount of the note payable which is 200,000 at saka yung interest po natin na 12% na 24,000. So pag pinost po natin yan, debit notes payable 200,000, debit interest payable 16,000, debit interest expense 8,000 and credit cash for 224,000. Pagtingin nyo po sa ledger, ang mangyayari ay yung interest expense natin ay merong balancing 8,000 para po sa 2021. Tapos yung interest payable po natin, syempre, bayad na po natin. Magzi-zero po siya. So, naipakita po natin na yung interest for 2020 ay 16,000. Ang interest for 2021 ay 8,000. So, pagdating po ng preparation of financial statements for 2021, 8,000 po yung lalabas na interest expense. Tapos yung income statement last year, doon na po nakalagay yung 16,000. Okay, so dito na po tayo sa may reversing entry. Paano naman po gagawin natin pag may reversing entry? Makikita po natin dito yung advantage of using reversing entries so that it can facilitate the recording of your asset, liabilities, revenue, and expenses in the usual manner. So later, makikita nyo yung ano ba yung sinasabi ko na usual manner. Okay, so wala naman pong pinagkaiba sa initial entry sa May 1, 2020. Dahil nanghiram po ng pera sa bangko, nag-sign ng note payable, a written note of promise to pay, wala po tayong problema doon. So debit lang po tayo ng cash, 200,000, credit notes payable for 200,000. We also have no problem in your adjusting entry. It's just the same. Debit interest expense, 16,000. Credit interest payable, 16,000. Pakita natin uli sa ledger kung paano siya ipopost. So, debit interest expense for 16,000. Credit interest payable for 16,000. Ganun din po ang closing entry. Iko-close nyo po muna siya. Debit profit or loss summary, 16,000. Credit interest expense, 16,000. Post po natin. Debit profit or loss summary, 16,000. Credit interest expense, 16,000. Ganun din po ang mangyayari. Magko-close po ang interest expense at yung interest payable po natin, meron po tayong utang na interest na hindi pa nababayaran, 16,000. Pasok po tayo ngayon sa reversing entry. Pag sinabi pong reversing entry, yung mismong adjusting entry, babaliktarin mo lang. So, debit, interest payable, 16,000. Credit, interest expense, 16,000. Popost po natin ngayon. Okay? Debit interest payable, 16,000. Yun pong naka-red yung ating reversing entry. It is being journalized and posted at the beginning of the new accounting period. Okay? And then credit interest expense, 16,000. Kung makikita nyo po ngayon sa ating T account, interest expense has a credit balance of 16,000. Sa unang tingin, parang mali, 'di ba? Dahil how can an expense account have a credit balance when the normal balance of an expense account is debit? And then as you can see, the interest payable is now 0, right? Parang mali din kasi hindi pa naman tayo nagbabayad 'di ba? Bakit na 0 na agad yung interest payable? Ito ngayon yung purpose ng reversing entry, that we can facilitate the recording of asset, liabilities, revenue, and expenses in the usual manner. Paano po yung usual manner? Papakita ko sa inyo ngayon yung repayment entry natin, parang walang nangyaring mga adjustments. Tingnan nyo mabuti. Debit, notes payable, 200,000. Debit, interest expense, 24,000. Credit cash, 224,000. Pansinin yung mabuti yung repayment entry natin. Ang nakadebit po is yung buo na interest expense na 24,000 na 12% ng 200,000 na parang hindi tayo dumaan sa mga adjusting entries last year. Parang we are recording the transaction, we are recording the repayment entry in the usual manner. Usual lang, parang walang nangyaring mga adjustment. Dinebit pa rin natin yung interest expense ng buo. So, syempre, parang iisipin mo, nag-record na ako ng interest expense last year. Although, hindi pa nga lang bayad, pero hindi kaya parang magdodoble yung recording. Ito ngayon yung function ng reversing entry. Pansinin nyo ngayon pag pinost na natin. Debit notes payable, 200,000. Debit interest expense, 24,000. Then credit cash, 224,000. Tingnan nyo ngayon yung ledger ng may reversing entry sa interest expense. Meron tayong naka-debit na 24,000, pero meron tayong naka-credit na reversing entry na 16,000. So, ang lalabas pa rin po na interest expense mo ng 2021 ay 8,000. Pero yung interest payable, lalabas po siyang bayad na. Napansin po natin, pero tinan yung mabuti. Whether gumamit tayo ng reversing entries o hindi, ang balanse ng ating interest expense for 2021 is still 8,000 and still properly na-report natin yung 16,000 na interest expense last year. At sa interest payable po natin, whether or not gumamit tayo ng reversing entries o hindi, kita naman po bayad tayo ng interest payable. So that's how reversing entries functions in our adjusting entries. Okay, so laging tatandaan, without reversing entries or with reversing entries ay pareho lang naman din po ang kalalabasan. Yun nga lang, kapag without reversing entries, nagkakaroon po tayo ng monitoring. Magkano na ba ang na-record nating interest expense last year para hindi tayo sosobra ng babayaran o i-record na interest this year. Pag reversing entries, nababawasan po yung ating monitoring. Kasi kahit nag-adjusting entries ka na, pag ikaw ay dumaan ng reversing entry, you can record the repayment entry in the usual manner. Okay? I hope you understand that. If you have questions, you may comment them down in the comment section below. Okay, so remember po, ang atin pong nire-reverse ay yung mga prepayments under expense method, deferrals under revenue method, tsaka lahat po ng accruals. So balik po tayo sa landing on new travel services company. Balikan po natin lahat ng naging adjusting entries. So kung titignan po natin, ang letter A ay isang accrual, accrued expense. Letter B, C, and D ay recognition po ng depreciation expense. So hindi po yan nire-reverse. Yung letter E and F naman po natin ay adjustments relating to prepayments, pero yan po ay asset method. So hindi rin po yan i-reverse. And then sa letter G naman po ay deferral po yan, pero liability method. So ang ating pong kinakailangan lang nagawan ng reversing entry ay yun pong ating adjustment letter A. So babalik na rin lang natin, debit, interest payable 1,000, credit interest expense 1,000. Okay? So I hope you understand. Tapos na po tayo sa buong accounting process for a service entity. Congratulations, palakpakan. Okay, so tapos na tayo sa buong accounting process for a sole proprietorship type of business na service industry. So dahil tapos na tayo sa service, pwede na po tayo next lesson na pumunta sa merchandising operations. Tatapusin lang natin yung merchandising operations and then tapos na po tayo sa fundamentals of accountancy, business and management part 1. Okay, so if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, you may comment them down in the comment section below. Thank you and have a great day.